Oh, no, I don't want to start on that. This is great.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
alive.
All right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of IV Games Weekly. I am Austin Harrison. This is Zach Dixon.
Hello.
And we are joined by Monique Macasaet from Before You Play. Thanks so much for being here, Monique.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's wonderful having
you.
you.
For having me.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's an honor that you're here, so thank you. If you haven't seen Monique's channel Before You Play, it is a great show for learning new games, checking out what they're playing. You guys are actually doing some series, Monique, where you're playing like certain developers' games, aren't you?
Yes, that has been very fun.
Yeah, that
very exciting.
I kind of want to do that on our side, but the problem is I would just be like, cool, and this month is Star Wars, and next week or next month is Lord of the Rings. I would be more about the nerddoms than I would be about.
People would love that.
Well, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. So when we told our Discord, Monique, that you were coming on the show, we got a bunch of questions, and several people were really excited.
Oh,
so you are definitely,
awesome.
definitely a popular figure for our fans as well. So, yeah, thanks for being here.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So do you mind if we ask you some questions and get to know you a little bit better?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right. So we got into games in a very weird way. We were an animation studio, and then we were like, let's make a game. But how did you get into games and wanting to do content around games?
Well, we actually got into games something like 5 years ago. So we've been in the hobby for a little bit of time, not as long as some people.
Longer than us.
But yeah, I guess so. But it was because I was studying for my boards, because I'm a healthcare professional. So I was in my master's program studying for my boards, and I didn't really have a whole lot of friends here, like outside of my classmates, because I'm not actually from Southern California. And so I needed to make friends. So I found friends through board gaming. I found like a website called meetup.com, and then that was like the easiest way, to make friends is over board games.
Yeah.
Kind of cuts out the awkward intros. So that's how we started getting into board gaming.
That's great.
And then we didn't start doing content until like a year ago or something.
What kind of games were you playing then at first when you were just kind of meeting up with somewhat strangers at that point?
Yeah, that's true. I would pretty much just play anything they brought around. So it was just like a whole variety of stuff. But like looking back at what we were playing a lot of, it was a lot of card games.
Okay.
A lot of like deck builders. I feel like those are kind of like the easiest things to bring out, especially like in like a restaurant setting. So I played a ton of card games.
What were like thinking back, like what were some of the games that you were like, oh, maybe this is like my hobby now? Like what were the things that really drew you in?
Gosh, that's a good question. We played have you heard of a game called Star Realms?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think at that point, but by then I had been like already meeting with groups of people. Before that, I had played like games here and there. So there are some titles off the top of my head that I like really liked at the time, but didn't necessarily draw me into the hobby.
Right.
But Star Realms for me was like, whoa, this exists. Like it's a two-player deck builder, like really quick. And it just seemed so creative at the time, and it just kind of like opened my world for a game that's so small, right?
Yeah.
So small, but like made such like a big impact on like introducing us into the hobby. Yeah, that was probably it.
I'm embarrassed to say I've played that game more on the app than
I was
I
gonna
have
say
in person.
you sent me that app. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The app is really good.
Yeah.
It is. At the time, they had just built the app, so like none of the expansions were on it.
No.
I don't really know where it is at this point, but it's good.
Yeah,
we were looking at that when we were making Moonrakers, which is also a sci-fi themed deck builder. So that was one of the ones.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
that's awesome. It's so funny, like those. It's just always whatever the people bring to you, and then you never know which one's gonna really catch your eye and kind of draw you in. But that's a really fun one, and not like a normal one either. Not one you hear a lot, which is awesome.
Our pathways were a lot more generic. They were Catan, Dominion.
Yep.
Just like
Catan?
boom, boom. Yeah, Catan was our like original, and then it's Dominion, and then like those are the two games that got me into modern board gaming.
Yep.
Nice.
So
yeah, Dominion's great. Dominion, I played that one a ton too.
Yeah,
before getting into the hobby.
I bought Zach like a special carrying case.
I know. I have an embarrassing number of boxes. It's like, you want to come over to my house to play board games? And it's like I have a stack like this tall, and people are like, so how many games are we playing? Like, oh no, this is just one of the games.
This is one game. The rest are in my car still.
But now, thanks to Austin, I now have this nice leather carrying case, and it's just this long.
Nice.
this long case of cards. So
it's called a quiver.
Nice. A quiver.
I think it is called a quiver.
Yeah.
It's a great little case.
I've seen those. Those are awesome. So you kind of just customize which cards you put in there.
Yeah, so I basically just pulled out all of my favorite cards from all the Dominion boxes, and then I just leave the ones I don't want to play with in their normal box.
Get out of here, witches.
Do they ever get switched in and out, or is this
not for a
like
while,
forever
probably.
what you want to play with?
Honestly, forever. I mean, there's like a Dominion like meta almost online. Like there are cards like serious Dominion players like, oh, you should never play with this card because it's just like not worth like the money, if that makes sense. So then when you do play with
you're
it,
never gonna buy them.
Yeah, and for me, I'm like, I don't want to like let people fail. Like I don't even want to give somebody who's new that option because like I know that's a bad card, but like they don't know, and no one wants to be told like, oh, you shouldn't buy that. Like that's not fun.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's fun for you. Like,
it is fun for me.
Hey,
like later,
person.
like you should have done your hours of research before we played this game.
It is daunting trying to teach a game that you've played 100 times to someone brand new, and you're like, you have no chance, but here's how you play this game. But we're going to talk about that later. I don't want to get into that.
Nice
little segue.
preview.
But we're not ready. We're not ready for it. All right. So did you start doing your content alone, or has Naveen always been your kind of partner in crime?
That is a good question. I started alone, actually.
Nice.
I actually started on Instagram.
Oh.
That was like,
nice.
Yeah, I was just like, I want to take pictures of board games one day and share them. And then I found out that people were doing that already on Instagram, like a ton of people. And so I was inspired by them, actually, and started on Instagram. And then after a while, I started thinking like, this might be a good way to start teaching games because at the time I was teaching games at our local convention.
Yeah.
And it's something that I really enjoy doing. Like I would almost rather teach a game than play it.
Oh, wow.
So
please come to all of my game nights.
It's just really fun for me seeing the eyes light up, right? Like once it's a game starts for people. Yeah. So I figured, YouTube would be a good way to start teaching more people how to play games that I enjoy playing. So that's how it started. It started with just me teaching.
How long has the YouTube channel been? How long have you been actively posting on the YouTube channel?
My first video technically came out at the end of June of last year.
Okay.
Nice.
But that was like, that's like first video ever. I'm so tempted to take it down, but for some reason people are still watching it.
I always
because
I went back and I watched it first. I was like, I wonder when she started, so I went back and I watched the first video. So it does happen.
Yeah, it's pretty.
It's
pretty
fine.
horrible.
I don't feel that for you. No, your old videos are great. I just feel that with all the stuff we make, it's just like you look back a year ago and you're like, like what was I thinking back then? Like, 'cause I totally get that feeling for sure.
So what was I thinking is really strong.
I cannot believe that you only, and honestly, I was really surprised that you only started last June when I went back and looked, because you're a lot more popular than I would expect you to be, not because your content's not great, but because you've only been doing it for a year and change.
Well, yeah, you've put out so much. Like, it's very impressive. It's a lot.
I think that we're only able to do that because of the current circumstances in the world. Because otherwise, Naveen and I are like we're very like, we go out a lot, or like we travel a lot.
Nice.
So we're like forced to just be home, and so we, to try to keep our sanity, we keep ourselves busy.
When you used to travel, when that was possible, did you bring a lot of games with you? Like, do you have any like plane games or destination games that you bring?
All the time. We would bring just a smaller, we have like a list of games that we always kind of bring with us that's like smaller 2-player stuff, and then something that's smaller that we can play with other people in case we like meet new friends, which happens quite often when we travel.
That's fun.
So we do have like a list.
Yeah, that's so fun. What's your go-to in that regard? Like, what are you packing? What's the first thing in the suitcase?
Definitely a game called Hanami Koji.
Oh yeah.
It's it's also called Jixia Academy. It's a 2-player only. It's a card game, but it's small, so it's convenient. But it's a 2-player only game where it's very meta. Like, you're just like trying to get into each other's heads. So we like games like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very fun
like,
theme.
Thinking stuff. There's a game called Shot and Totten. It's also called Battle Line.
Yep.
It was, like,
that's
we
one of
made
my
it
favorites.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Always bring that.
We have it on hand, just ready,
Nice.
waiting for someone to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So a good
games like
follow-up
that.
to that, and not just for travel, but like, do you have a mechanic that is like something that you're actively like, when you hear it, you're like, oh, I want to try it? Like it's like your favorite mechanic. That was a long way to ask that question.
Yeah, that is
thanks, Zach.
That's a good question. I feel like that changes quite a bit. Like in the earlier days, it was like always deck builders. I had like a thing for deck builders, and then like worker placement games. But I think lately it's like anything that has a good deduction mechanism or programming.
Ooh, programming.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I
fun.
heard about it. Yeah, programming and deduction, if it's done well, I think is really
interesting.
fun.
All right, so can you explain programming?
Yeah. That sounds
I think amazing. I know what it means, and I think I've played a game of programming.
Have you played a game called Mechs vs. Minions?
I know of it. I have not played it.
You know of it?
Yeah.
That's like a true programming. So it's basically where you have to like, you have to put in your moves in advance. It's like you have to plan all your 3 moves and lock them in now, and they have to go in that order.
Ooh,
that's like what I think of when I think of programming.
So I've played games with that as an element, but never where it's like the dominant element. Like Star Wars Armada, like I said, Star Wars nerd here. Like you have to plan fleet movements on like little stacked like chits before your turn, and you can't change it once you've done it. So yeah, I like programming games.
That's definitely it. Yeah.
Very
it's
nice.
fun when like everybody kind of has to like plan their moves as well, so your plans can get foiled. So
yeah, it is a great feeling foiling someone else's plans, especially if their name is Zach.
Oh no!
There's a little rivalry
we do
between us when we play games together, but it's fine. I always win, so it's fine.
Whoa! It gets to a point.
Ask, like who's on top right now?
Zach is on top. It's to the point where we would both rather take the other person down than maybe win. I'm not going to say that like 100% that's all the time, but like if I have a chance to like make Zach not win instead of winning, I might try it. Like I don't.
It's very unhealthy.
Yeah, we should we should go to couples counseling.
We're seeing someone. Yeah. And then with deduction, any standouts recently with that mechanic for you?
Recently, not recent, but there is one game. Okay, I had to like look at my shelf. I forgot what it was called, but there's a game called Cryptid. I think that's Cryptid. Like a couple of years old. Yeah, I really like that game.
Over there somewhere.
I have like
we bought it. We haven't played it yet, but.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. Like that's like pure deduction. That's like that is the mechanic of that game.
I don't think
we
bought
fun.
it. I think someone from Secret Santa, Ivy Games Secret Santa, got it for me.
Oh, nice.
I think that was my game.
Yeah, we do a Secret Santa on the Discord if you would like to join or anyone listening.
Yeah. Come and join us in the Discord.
I love doing those actually.
Oh man, Secret Santa board games is the best because you don't feel guilty, and then a game just arrives on your doorstep. And like when your spouse is like, "Why do you have more games?" Be like, "Oh, that was a Secret Santa."
I didn't have a choice.
I didn't know that was just sent to us for free. That's how Secret Santa works.
That's cool. It's true.
So
cool.
how do you kind of choose which games you do on the show? How does that kind of get slated into your schedule, or is it just kind of whatever you're feeling?
Yeah, so there are a few ways that we go about that. One of the main ways, which happens a lot more now that we've been doing it for years, we get contacted by publishers.
That's awesome.
And depending on, nowadays we haven't been taking too many requests because we have quite a significant backlog. But depending on, if we've worked with them in the past, if it's something that we know for sure fits our channel, because we do have kind of like a genre of games that fit our channel more than others and our audience. So we'll kind of like do the research and figure out if it's something that we could do, especially in the amount of time that they need it to be done, because a lot of times there's like a targeted time frame.
Yeah.
Totally.
Outside of that, we just have like a list. I have like a list on my phone of just like ideas of things that I think would be fun to show on our channel that we're both interested in. And so we pull a lot of games off of our shelf to kind of do. We've been doing that designer series. I guess it's just our second one, so I can't really say that we've been doing it. But
no, that's two is enough. You can say you've been doing it.
I guess that's true if you're playing like all of their games. But that's something that we hope to continue in the future. So we have like a list of designers that we're just like on our watch list of like any games that they're putting out to add to like their designer series.
That's cool.
Nice. And then we also go based off of recommendations from our audience. People love to like request games.
That's great.
So,
what designer are you in the series of right now?
Right now we are doing Alexander Pfister.
Nice.
So I've heard of like Great Western Trail or Maracaibo.
So Great Western Trail is very high on my list to play, but I didn't back it, so that's an issue. So that was actually a question from our Discord. Are you enjoying this series with Feister as much as you did with your? Is it Lacerda? I never know how to say this.
Lacerda, yes.
Yeah, Lacerda series.
Yeah, that's a great question, and yes, we are, and the reason why is because with Lacerda, Lacerda is my favorite designer, so that was like a no-brainer for us to start with. In fact, we didn't even decide to do a designer series until we finished doing that one. We enjoyed it so much. Because we started realizing that it's almost like studying, like when you go to school and you have to study like a breadth of work. It's kind of the same way, but for board games. And so you kind of like analyze and see how their design style changes over time.
Yeah.
And that's something that we really liked about doing that series. So doing Alexander Feister's games is interesting to us because we haven't played a whole lot of them. And so this is like, we are truly discovering this designer's style over time. And we're having a good time.
Have there been any patterns that you've kind of noticed throughout both those series?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They each have a very unique style, and I mean, Alexander Feister designs a lot more varied. I guess like his games are a lot more different than each other. Like Vital Lacerda's games are very similar in the way that they work, but they're just all like these like heavy, crunchy games. That's not the same for Alexander Feister. So you do see how his design style and kind of like the mechanics that they enjoy using, how they've grown over time. And you kind of see like what they started with as opposed to like what they're into now.
Yeah.
And you see like the stark differences.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It is really fun to kind of play like the same designer or like a game in like a series and just see how like after the designer released that first game that had a lot of success in a lot of cases, they're just like, I can make it better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Have
Exactly.
you been playing them in order, like chronologically from like first game to most recent?
Yeah, that's the goal, and so far so good.
Nice.
We've been trying to even our first plays of them have been in sequential order.
Nice.
So
no, definitely.
Yeah.
I've really like I think I started. I was already kind of planning on doing this. I played El Dorado by El Dorado Games.
Yeah, I think
and then
that is the name.
I think Windward is up this weekend,
over
also by them. And I don't know. I really liked El Dorado, and then I'm like, just went on their website. I'm like, oh, it's the same as Windward. I'm gonna play that next because I'm really excited to just like, I'm gonna play with the same people. It's gonna be great. Like just kind of see the evolution of their way of thinking about making games. So
yeah, that's really awesome, and that's something that we were thinking about doing down the line also, because some designers are like they just have one or two titles, but they work with the same, or like certain publishers have also only one or two titles, but they're all very like much similar. Like Mind Clash Games is an example. So in the future, we are considering of doing like a publisher series to see.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, I also like almost, and maybe this exists, and maybe I just need to find it, but I see this a lot in indie games, like video games, or there's like Game Maker's Toolkit, which like really kind of goes a little bit more analytical into like game design and like why something works.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of that kind of
content in board games.
Yeah, just like really getting into like why a game works and like, or like a body of work like this, because I think, I don't know, it's just like it's really fascinating to me. I love to hear about all that stuff.
Or why a game doesn't work.
Or why, that's
That'd
true.
That'd be meaner though. I don't know if we'll do that.
Yeah. Usually
that's
you
a little bit riskier.
It is. Yeah. Usually you get a post-mortem from the person who made it. But honestly, I would be into that too. Like just hearing like, why didn't this work out the way I thought it would?
Yeah. Hopefully we don't have that in our games.
Yeah. We're going to do a post-mortem someday.
All right. So we talked a little bit about teaching games already. We keyed it up, but our special topic today is learning and teaching games. And this seemed perfect to talk to you about, Monique, because you learn and love to teach games and have to do it all the time for your show. Yeah. And we have to teach one or two games over and over and over and over again because of the games that we're demoing for our company. But would love to just kind of like explore this topic. Our Discord was excited to kind of hear our thoughts. A lot of the people in the Discord are their friends group's board game nerd, the one that introduces their friends to new games. And because of that, there's this huge weight of they have to be the one that teaches it. And that can be hard, especially when you send out a YouTube video that has the rules and then none of your friends watch it and they come to game night and you're like, oh, well.
That's like every time.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't planning on teaching you were supposed to watch the video, but here we go, right? So,
right.
yeah, I'm spoiled because I'm used to be that person, but now Zach is that person in a lot of our nights.
I'm that person.
And he always...
How do you feel about that, Zach?
I enjoy it too. Like you were saying earlier, like it's something that you really enjoy is teaching the game and like getting people to understand it. Like I feel a satisfaction from that. I think it's really enjoyable.
Especially because he teaches us incorrectly and then he wins.
Yep.
Oh.
It's part of my winning strategy. No, it's really not.
So Zach begins every game with the same words, and that is, the point of the game is to win, and to win you ... And that bugged me for a long time, and now I like it. Because it frames what the goal. You can explain it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it really stemmed from like we had friends in college who would just kind of mess around. And it was like, oh, like if we're all not gonna play the game to win, then what are we doing here? Like if it's a competitive game, there are lighthearted games and things like that, but it's just like, we're all coming together and like we enter into this social contract together that we're all trying to win. We're not trying to make Austin lose. We're all trying to win, and that's the framework that we're gonna
I love how we say that, but right before
we said that we don't.
Other lose.
But yeah, so it's a bit jokey at this point, but like I do tend to do that, but I'm honestly really curious. Like, how do you kind of frame the way that you teach games?
Well, I actually do something very similar. I have my own sort of formula that I've just kind of developed over the years that just works almost like every time.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is you always have to go from like general to specific. That's always what I try to tell myself, especially with the bigger games. Because there are a lot of games, I talk a lot about Lizardus because that's what we covered a lot, but his games are like really, really involved, right? Like it's like a novel to read the rule book, and it's very easy for people to kind of start jumping into the mechanisms. But the biggest rule for me is you can never like assume knowledge of your listener, because that's where things start to fall apart. That's where things like start to get confusing. So I always start with I always like to start with a theme actually before I get into what I like to do. Yeah. I like to paint the picture, because these people are going to be involved in this game for the next like hour and a half. I kind of want them to kind of feel what the designer was trying to get out of this game. So I'll talk about the theme and the story, and then the object of the game, and then always into like the game structure. So like, how many rounds is it? Is it going to be over in? Is there an end game trigger? And then sort of go into the turn structure and mechanics.
Love it.
So it always kind of follows that. And by the time you get into like turn structure, then people at least understand what the game is about and like what they have to do.
Yeah,
right?
I love that formula, because I'm just looking at rule books and stuff like that. Sometimes I get into it and I'm like, okay, I understand the rule, but I don't understand why. Like, I understand how to take this action, but why would I want to take this action? And starting from the general to the specific really helps with that. So I love that formula. We might steal that.
No, that's
I highly recommend it, especially for anybody out there who is like your dedicated gaming group teacher. Please do. That'll help bring more people in, So that's what I feel.
Zach, we just talked about Zach's way of introducing it, and it's actually getting challenged on Discord.
I know. I like that challenge.
Or not, and the YouTube. So the challenge, there's two. Well, one I'm making up because he's not watching right now, but I know he'd say this. Kelzone would say, well, I'm just here to sow chaos.
Yep, we're not playing together, Kelzone. No, just kidding.
And then I have heard this often, and I've said it on the show, but the point of playing can be to play a beautiful game. And that is echoed by Kung Fu Quickness on our YouTube channel.
Like that.
He said that my goal is to have a great time. And that kind of goes hand in hand with that. And so he used Nemesis as an example. Like, that is a very experiential, story-driven game where you're kind of working together, but you can win alone. And that's just like all about the experience for him. Like, he doesn't care if he wins.
Yeah, it definitely comes into like types of games too, like role-playing games. Like, the point of that is not to win.
No,
like, we're telling a story together. Like, we're going on we're making memories together as friends. And
that's right.
And totally, like, I will admit that it's a bit jokey at this point, just more of inside joke, because I do see a lot of like point in that. I also think, like, if you're playing a game like chess or something like that, like a lot of times the point of the game is just to get better at the game. Is like it's like a bit of practice, I think, too, and just like a mental exercise. And I think that's a worthy experience. And sometimes I think the point of the game is just to hang out with your friends and be together, and that's great too.
Yeah, but I think starting with I still think we should start with that, because if everyone's not trying to win, it can ruin the fun for people that are trying to win. Yeah. So I think it's a good starting place still.
I agree.
I am curious. Will you send out like a how to play video ahead of a game night when you're kind of curating a game for your group, or no? Are you just like I want to frame it myself?
Is the video?
Yeah, that's fair. Send out your own video.
I don't, only because I feel like nobody watches them. I also don't want to put the pressure on them to now set aside time, because if they I don't want them to feel like they're not being respectful by like watching the video ahead of time. And I know that the game night is already like carving out so much time out of their day.
It's true. Do you watch a video or do you learn from a rule book?
Oh, good question.
I cannot. So to answer your question quickly, I read the rule book.
Okay.
And the reason why is because I actually have a difficult time learning any other way.
Interesting.
So I cannot learn from watching videos, which is strange because we make videos, but and I actually can't learn from anybody teaching me as well.
Wow.
And that was like a problem I've had since like school. When I was in like elementary school, high school, I could never like listen to a teacher lecture. Like I skip a lot of class, honestly, because of that. So I always had to read the book myself. And so that's just, I think, if anybody's interested in teaching, I think that's actually the first step, like figuring out what kind of learner you are and just like really running with that always.
My wife is the same, because she doesn't want me to teach her a game. She wants to read the rule book and play, but she's also not as dedicated to board games as I am, so that limits the types of games she wants to play. Like, she will not sit down and play a huge, like, 4X game with me. She wants to play Azul or something like that she can, digest in less than 30 minutes and then play. I totally get that learning style. I can learn it anyway, I think.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah,
Very lucky.
I honestly do both. Like, the most recent game I taught was El Dorado, and like they had a really, really great YouTube. They broke it up into different chunks, which I thought was interesting. They had like a setup video, a turn video, and then like additional rules, which was really nice. But then I had to like read the rule book again as kind of a refresher. So for me, I think it's honestly both. And that's something we've been talking about a lot too. It's just like games, for making our games. It's like, I feel like it's also the rule book in general serves kind of two purposes. Like this, like, one, you got to teach the game, but then it's also the reference manual for that middle of the game moment where you're just like, I don't remember. Is it 2 or 3? Like, I don't know. It's just like, and then I was
going to ask Monique about this. What do you think of like the split rule books, the like rules reference versus like how to play rule books? Do you like that, or do you prefer it all in one?
Well, it depends on the type of game, I guess. If it's like a game with a lot of cards and the rules reference is literally just like all the different cards and like the explanations of them at a glance, I love that.
Yeah, that's
because
nice.
Then you don't have to like get but then again, a lot of rulebooks have it like at the very back, so that works just as fine as well, I think. I like the like little handy cards if the games are really involved and have like a turn structure. Yeah, I do like those, so you can kind of follow the structure of the round. But other than that, the rulebook also just works. Works fine.
The reason I like split rulebooks sometimes, and I agree with you, sometimes it's not as necessary, but a really thick game that has like a how to play and like explanation rulebook, and then it has a indexed rulebook where like everything's in alphabetical order. Yeah. Where I'm like, cool, I want to learn about attacking. Like, I just need to check one rule. I can just flip to the A's. It's not a long flip. To read that section really quickly. It just helps me like really quickly find stuff.
That's super. That's super helpful in really heavy games too, and also games that are really competitive. Like if we're playing a big game that I've never played before, and I really want to do a thing, but I also don't want to ask the person who's most likely to win, who taught me the game, about that thing. And so it's like, can I have the rule book? And then I'm just like sitting there for like a half hour, like trying to remember like the thing I'm trying to do. So I love those things. But
helpful.
Kind of speaking of that, like, so there's, explaining how to play a game is one thing, but explaining how to be good at a game is another thing. How do you handle that?
I don't know if I do, to tell you the truth. I try to I play the game a bunch first. Or I try to play it like a couple times.
Nice.
Just so I can get a feel for what I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
But, what I kind of go for strategy-wise isn't necessarily going to be the be-all and end-all of what you can do. So I will kind of give a little bit of advice, especially in Lacerda's, like, you don't want to focus on this because it's really not going to play as big a role as it may seem in the rules teach. And instead, if you can do this, try to do this all the time. Totally. So I will kind of give like those little hints and tips. But then I try not to give too much of it because I want the gamer to experience the game on their own, right? To kind of discover it on their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, because like a part of the game is figuring out good strategies and how to be good at it.
Yeah.
And if someone hands you that strategy, there's not a lot of payoff emotionally of like, oh, I figured this out. It's just like,
I feel like it might not be as much fun. Right. Yeah. Like that's part of the fun, like really like getting your brain involved and figuring out how to play this game, right?
Was it Age of Atlantis that actually had like first play guides on like good strategies? Is that the game that was?
I don't remember that, but I've seen that in some rule books, and I'm always like not sure how I feel about it. Like
it's either going to be good or bad, because it can't be anything else.
Well, like I can see how it makes sense in maybe more like social or like deduction games where it's like the strategy's a little bit less like on the board and more of just like what kind of questions should you be asking people, or like what you should be looking for, and like kind of framing the table mood or environment I think can be helpful, and but that does kind of dive into strategy and kind of telling you how to play a little bit too. So I don't know.
Zach's father-in-law started off a game of Tortuga by declaring his allegiance in a social deduction game. Zach thought the game was over, but actually they won, right?
Oh yeah, they did fine. They all knew who he was, and they just like played with that in mind. And I was just like, oh,
wow, this is a viable accidental strategy.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
All right, Monique. Why do you put Klingon subtitles on your videos?
Because everybody else does it. That's how we started. But
we don't do that. Should we be doing that?
No.
Okay.
We do it because there are so many rules to a lot of the games that we teach, and like, gosh, we're destined to like get something wrong whenever we do a video, and if we get something wrong, somebody's going to catch it and they're going to say what it is, and I actually appreciate that. And so the thought process is we would go back into the subtitles and make the correction. We haven't been doing it as much as we should. So as of right now, they're not as useful, but yes, the thought process is to go back in there and correct them.
How did it get started with Klingon? Like, I wonder who the first person, maybe I don't know who the first person, I've seen it a lot, but it's always interesting just to see the different ideas people have as far as like, how are we going to like future-proof this?
Right.
And you can't do that as well when you're in a group of friends. It's be like, all right, turn on the Klingon subtitles while I talk, and if I get a rule wrong, it'll just pop up. But I laughed when I was watching your videos and that happened, because I was like, oh, I know why this is, but like if I was really, this could be really confusing as a person watching. But I don't think it is, because you explain it very well on your show. But anyway.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So a question from our Discord. I think this is from Chimblade. How does Monique learn heavy, especially Euro games, and how does she approach teaching them? So I guess you already talked about teaching the game, but like especially when it's really, really difficult, heavy game, do you add anything to that framework, or how do you yourself go about taking extra time to learn it?
Yeah, I typically will add. So that skeleton is a very general, broad like starting point for approaching how to teach a game, but depending on the game and like what the game calls for, if there's like a unique mechanism that you don't often see in a lot of games, then I'll spend extra time on that. I'll try to figure out like where exactly it should go, because there are like certain games. Have you guys played Lisboa?
No.
No, that's a Vital Lacerda game. It's one of like his heavier ones, and there's like a very specific turn structure that like really kind of is difficult for people to learn. So stuff like that I'll like really focus on. But in terms of learning how to play the game, if it's a shorter game that's not the heavier Euros, I'll just take the rules book and read it like before going to bed. And by the time I finish it, depending on how involved it is, I pretty much have an idea at least of how to play it, and I'll try to teach it like the next day.
Nice.
If it's like a really involved game like those, I'll actually set the game up and sit with it. So like I always actually start by trying to just read it and understand it, and I always fail at that because halfway through I'm like, I don't even know what that symbol is that this rulebook is referring to. So then I will set it up completely. I'll sit in front of it, and then I'll read the rulebook front to back and try to move the pieces around. And then the key thing for me, the key thing for me is I will teach it right away. I think it's really important. Like, don't go a week and then try to teach it. Smart. Like, teach it while it's fresh.
What you just said about not knowing the icon for like a token or whatever was one of my biggest fears, because we were talking about this in the Discord. Like, someone got a game and the rulebook said, all right, now take this token, but there wasn't a picture or anywhere in the rulebook that told you what that token looked like. And I was just like, oh gosh, if that ever happens to me, I'm going to be so sad. And it is true. Like, playing those big games, you kind of do have to pull it out of the box. Do you ever play like a solo mode to try to learn it, or do you not like solo modes?
No. It's not that. It's just that solo modes work differently
that's a good point.
than the true gameplay. So I don't want to get those rules confused with like the full experience.
That makes sense.
But teaching the game is really important. I just want to emphasize that. Like, if the true mastery of knowledge is if you can teach somebody what you just learned, right? And so usually in teaching the first time, I'll typically teach to Naveen, because he is like, he does not ever want to pick up a rule book. He's complete opposite of me. So I'll typically teach it to him, and then he'll ask all these questions, and that'll like make me kind of think like, oh, do I really know how to play it? So it's really helpful.
Great. No, that's and that's super helpful too. Like, just hearing those like first questions that people have, especially when designing a game and being on that side of it too. It's just like you're teaching a game, and I'm just like always like taking such big mental notes. Like, what questions are they asking every single time? Like, I need to frame this differently.
Yeah, that's why it's a good thing Zach's on this team, because I'm just like, these stupid people, why don't they understand this rule? And it's actually obviously our fault.
And one of the really important things, I think, and this is something that would relate to you two specifically, is having a really good rule book. Because fortunately for a lot of those like really involved games, I feel like they're like really there's a lot of people who proofread those rule books, because it's really important for people to be able to digest them. So having a really well organized rule book is really important.
We thought the Moonrakers rulebook was done, our first game, and then the Discord was like, hey, can we see the rulebook? And I was like, sure. And like by the end of the day, I had like 30 million edits. And it was great. Like, we needed it, but like I didn't know we needed it. I had it edited for grammar, and I was like, it's great. And they were like, hey, like, this makes sense grammatically, but it does not make sense as far as rules go. Like, you need to explain this better. And so having that group of people that test things like that is so helpful.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great that you have that group.
Oh, they're wonderful. Hi, Discord. Yeah. I'm going to check and see if we have any questions for them, actually.
Yeah. No, that's like that rule book is a challenge. One of the things that we've been thinking about a lot lately is just like how, you know, like length, or also just like the redundancy of like explaining things, because it's just like like also thinking about like when you're coming back to it, it's like, you find the section you're in, but then like actually the information you need is in an earlier section, because I needed to set that up earlier. And so like, do you put it in two places, or you just keep it in the one place? And it sometimes just feels like this kind of impossible puzzle that you're building, and they're just like I don't know if there's such thing as a perfect rule book. It's very challenging. I never thought it'd be so challenging.
It's hard. It's like an art.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Monique, we talked about this last night, actually, when we were prepping for this show. We talked about a rule book that actually had like QR codes in it, and if you scanned it, it took you to a video, not just of the rules, but a time-stamped video where in the video they're talking about that section of the rule book. And I was like,
it's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work, but it sounds so cool.
That sounds great, though.
I imagine that would be pretty helpful for people to kind of just like be able to jump to that section at least.
Yeah, definitely.
The future, we do like QR codes, and then it's just like an AR thing on your phone.
My face comes up.
And and it's a hologram of Austin, and he just talks at you. No, like you see the pieces move around on a diagram. There it is. It'll only take years longer than the game itself to make. It'll totally be worth it.
Yeah, I mean,
I would love to demo that.
All right, coming to you in 2025.
I'll get started.
No, that's great. So you obviously are playing games with your husband to do for your show, but when you go to like a game night, a part of like teaching is also catering to your crowd. Like you don't go into a kindergarten and teach them, what's a rocket science. There's a topic. I was like astro. I don't know what I'm going to say after this. So like, how do you like gauge a group and like how do you choose a game? Do you have like go-tos for like teaching like light or medium? I'm just curious about how you choose games for your groups.
That's always a puzzle actually. So that changes all the time. And every time we have a game night, we always stand in front of our shelf for like way too long, way longer than we're supposed to, and like really try to figure out
it's the Netflix problem. It's like
exactly.
Spend more time looking at what you're gonna watch than actually watching something.
Yeah, we put stuff in the bag, take stuff out, like it's this whole dance. So we always start with player count. So if it's like a significant size, are we gonna break up into several groups? Is there something that we can kind of like let just people take and they'll be able to just kind of learn on the fly? Is it a dedicated group of gamers who we know only like heavy games? Then we'll kind of just go towards that. Are there a significant part of the group who are new to gaming? Then we'll kind of see what they may like based off of that. If that's the case, we'll pretty much always bring some kind of a social deduction game, because those are always a fun way to break the ice. And then we always bring like a few fillers. So length of the game night also plays a big role.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So a few fillers and then meatier stuff in case it gets there. So we pack for, it's kind of like packing for a trip.
It is.
And you want to pack for all types of weather.
Yeah.
But we do that for games.
Do you have a specific board game bag that you love?
Oh.
I don't actually. We get all these, like, when you go to the grocery and you have those like the fabric bags. We just have a bunch of those from like previous conventions, for like medical conventions or other board gaming conventions, and we just use those.
So random hot tip. The drums that are like you sit on, what are those called? You sit on and you play them.
Oh, the cajon.
Yeah.
The cajon.
Those, the
drums.
bags.
We have one of those.
Nice.
Yeah.
Actually.
The bags for those drums make such good board game cases.
Oh, that's nice. That's a nice idea.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so the chat is like, Zach, that technology already exists. But I think you were saying for us to make it.
Oh, yeah. The tech definitely exists. I'm just saying the time it would take for us to actually make it and implement it. Yeah. I'm not sure if it'd be worth it. I'm not sure if I can convince Sam that it's a good use of my time.
Sam is shaking his head.
He's shaking his head. No, I can't do it. I'm not allowed. I gotta focus. I gotta focus on other things. I'm so sorry. Okay, so here's the thing that I really want to do that I just thought of that I think would be really fun. So like we should make like a list or something, or maybe we can put it on the Discord. The Discord would probably be good at this, but I think it'd be fun. I always think of like, what is a good warm-up game? Like, like games before the game, but I think it'd be really fun when you're prepping for a night to like be like, all right, I want to set up this game that's got a lot of engine building. What's a like 30-minute or less game that has like an engine building mechanic that you can kind of, so like it's like a pairing, like a wine pairing or something like that. It's like you prep someone with like a really like, what's the most basic version of this game, and then a deeper, longer version. So you get the warm up and then the main course,
and then it has a wine pairing.
And then a wine down at the end of like a. I like this. So we should do this a future segment. It's like game pairings.
Game pairings. Oh, I'm gonna be bad at that segment.
That's a really interesting concept, actually. Vital Lacerda, the designer that we do a lot of his games, he actually made a game because his games are so like crunchy. Yeah. He made a filler game to help you learn a certain mechanic that's in one of his bigger games. It's actually on Kickstarter right now, by the way.
Oh, really? What is the game?
I backed it.
It's called Mercado de Lisboa.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we backed it already.
And it preps you to play Lisboa?
It takes a part of Lisboa.
Okay.
So it's like, if you can understand that game, then you'll understand one of the main mechanics in Lisboa.
I love that.
So, and it's by two designers, actually.
Monique, I didn't know that, but the reason we backed it is that I want to buy a lot of his games just for like our research purposes, and everyone recommends them to us, and we haven't played them yet. And it opens up the Pledge Manager where you can get to those games.
Oh, nice.
So that's...
Can we get Lisboa?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay, nice.
So that's why our Discord was like, Austin, you have to back this. I think that was Chimblade again. Chim has gotten tons of calls out today.
Yeah, that's great.
Call outs today.
The complexity rating on Lisboa, though, is hefty. On Board Game Geek, it's 4.57. That's like one of the higher...
Twilight.
I know. It's one of the highest I've ever seen on here. Like,
yeah.
I will say, though, that once you've played it like a couple times, the rules are like... You'll understand it. Like you'll get it after a few plays of it. So it's more in just like how do you play well is where that complexity rating comes into play, I think.
Beautiful game. How do you play a beautiful game? I love it. All right, so we kind of just did this a little bit, but we're going to talk about games we're excited about.
Yeah.
But it's a special edition today because we do different segments around this. Could be Kickstarter, could be something that's on our shelf of shame. But today we're talking about games that have been announced but that you can't get yet, or maybe just got to retail that we haven't had a chance to go buy. So Monique, you chose Cloudage, and this was recently announced, right? It's not been active very long.
I think. Well, I actually only heard about it in the past like month or something, but it's the newest Alexander Pfister game. So it came up on my radar because we're doing the series, and so I'm just like really highly alert to anything Pfister right now.
Yeah, totally.
And so that is a game that's coming out from Capstone Games, I believe, by the end of the year. And it sounds really interesting. Just the theme-wise, it sounds very different from things that he usually does.
Yeah,
it's like this created in like a dystopian world.
And I was gonna say the theme is a departure for him. It's definitely newer as far as like I've seen.
Oh yeah. Right. And then just like hearing some of the mechanics, it's like engine building, deck building, resource management. It almost sounds like another Great Western Trail set in dystopian world.
What is the sleeving mechanism? An innovative sleeving mechanism. I was like, what does that mean?
I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that, and I immediately thought of I don't remember the name of the game now, but there's this game where you can
Dead Reckoning,
build your.
Maybe? It's a card crafting game.
You're right that has that kind of component to it. But there was a game that came out before that I can't remember the name of it, where you put the card in these like you know when you sleeve cards, they had those transparent sleeves, except the sleeves have something printed on them that would upgrade the card. So it's a way of card crafting. Yeah, exactly. So I assume it's like that, but I don't
do a
really
Moonrakers expansion like that. That sounds really cool.
Sounds very fun. My most anticipated game of this year from Kickstarter is Dead Reckoning, and that is why I want to try that.
And it has that sleeve upgrading mechanic. That's really interesting. I've definitely never played a game like that.
No, I have not either. I mean, what a great choice, Monique, because this is. I mean, there's not a lot of information out there yet, but everything I've read about it is like,
Yeah, are there any like how to plays or anything like that?
No,
or is
not
it
yet.
just
I don't think.
General?
Unless have you seen anything?
No, I haven't. I'm on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you know once I do.
I mean, engine building, deck building, resource management.
Yeah, it ticks the
boxes.
Ticks
for
some
us.
great boxes.
Do they have anything about when it's coming out? Do you know?
I went onto Capstone's website, and you can actually pre-order it already.
Ooh.
So I think it says November. I don't know if that's dependent on things, but for now it says November that it's just going to be released, which is actually not that far away. So it's interesting that there's no real media on it yet. So maybe soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll be watching though.
Yeah, definitely be paying attention to that. All right, so
absolutely.
I'm excited about your pick, Zach.
Yeah, so I picked The Hobbit: An Unexpected Party for many reasons. I'll talk about the game and then why I picked it. So it's described as a fast, fun, action-based tabletop game for two to four players. It basically takes place in the opening scene of The Hobbit when all the dwarves have come to Bilbo's house and they're singing the song, the things Bilbo hates song, and I don't know. It seems like it's kind of lightweight, but it's just like a really fun theme and also a fun moment. I really like it when I don't know. Lord of the Rings is such this vast world, and I feel like most games that take place within it are around war or some of the more tap into that kind of vast world building. But this is just like a really specific single moment, and I think that's really nice.
I love that.
Describe.
Yeah, I love that song. The like, these are things that Bilbo hates or whatever it is. But and in the game, you're like playing cards to like do the steps of that song, but you can't make Bilbo too mad or Gandalf will get mad at you, I think, and then that's bad for you because no one wants Gandalf to be mad at them.
It's got a couple nice like natural like themed. Yeah, Bilbo might kick you out, but also you either finish the song or Thorin shows up, and then Mr. Serious Thorin ends the song, and then the player with the most points, who did the best job, impressing Bilbo and kind of getting him into your adventure, will win the game. So it's kind of that like push your luck kind of
card
mechanic.
Game entirely?
No. So there's a board. There's actually some player mats and stuff. It looks like it has some light like kind of player mat mechanics, and like special. There's like maybe a small amount of asymmetry depending upon which dwarf you play. So there's a lot of like.
Cool.
But I think it relies heavily on kind of a push your luck, where it's just like how far can I push before Bilbo kicks me out, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it'd be a nice like entry to a lot of those mechanics in a really fun, approachable theme, which is nice. And then it's made by Weta Workshop, who worked on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and just tons of films like District 9 and King Kong and Avatar. So it's and then the art's by Daniel Falconer, who's a concept artist. So and we are an animation studio as well. So I was just like, I always love to see when Weta comes out with games, because I just love that like crossover of they're bringing their perspective. So
company who made films? It's not by like a
Weta's like a special effects studio.
Yeah, they do special effects, but they also sell, like, if you go on their website right now, they're selling like Gandalf like figurines and stuff. So they craft things in real life for films, but then they also do visual effects for films. Very, very big company, but they also make board games sometimes, and I love.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I love that. They're bringing that perspective of working on films and other mediums to the board game space, which is something that we try to do at our studio in a much smaller way.
Much smaller, yeah. Kung Fu said on YouTube that the game could be a crossover with a different theme of how many board games can you buy until your spouse kicks you out of the house.
Very, very meta.
Yeah. Which is that would be a great game. Good idea, Kung Fu. Go make that. All right. So you said approachable for your game.
Yes.
My game is the opposite of approachable.
What are you talking about?
I chose Twilight Imperium. I don't know if I was allowed to pick an expansion, but it's like a totally separate box. Like, it's not a separate game. It's just a big separate box. But I chose the expansion called Prophecy of Kings for Twilight Imperium 4. And we've talked about this on the show a bit already, so I probably am crossing some lines here to choose this again. But the heart wants what the heart wants, and this is the game that is announced unreleased that I want the most. And so I will say I'm not a fan of the colors they chose for the two new players. It's orange and pink.
I mean, there's only so many colors left.
There are other colors than orange and pink. Pink is okay. I really don't like orange as a player color. And it's in almost every game. I just don't like it.
It's a common one.
I had to play orange last night in Kung Fu's game, and I was like,
It's hard to knock an opinion, but it's a strange opinion.
Okay, well, that's fine.
It's funny, I'm not a big fan of pink. But we're opposites.
All right, yeah.
What I really like about this game is that it adds in new ground troops. There's like mechs, and that sounds really, really fun to me. But then there's also like special like leader characters that like you get added into a bunch of different situations, and it just expands the asymmetry because your race that you pick has special leaders that do different things from each other, and it adds more depth to an already very crunchy game. Might get it up there to that 4.5 range.
Yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see.
What is it right now? It's a 4 right now.
4, okay.
But
how much time it adds?
If you go to 8 players, it has to add hours, like really hours.
Oh
yeah, because it's like 2 extra turns every round, and I guess it adds like new strategy cards and all kinds of stuff. But
Monique, what's your take on Twilight Imperium? How do you feel about it?
I really like it.
Really?
I'm a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan. But I would probably only play it with like the right group.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Or like the group that I know won't take the 8 hours.
You said you played a game in 4 hours, right? How many people
it
was
like
that?
4.5, but yeah, it was good. It was everybody was just kind of going, like once you have a flow and everybody's just like locked in, then, and to be fair, those hours they fly. Like
I totally agree.
You don't really feel the hours. You're heavily invested.
How many people were in that game, Monique?
We had 6.
What?
I believe.
Wow, that's really impressive.
Yeah.
What a crew.
It's a gaming group that we are very familiar. We're very familiar with each other and like our playing style, and we just kind of go. I think that's the important part. And we're very like, there's a lot of table talk.
Yeah. Do you play with any expansions?
I don't think they're. That's up for Twilight Imperium 3. They're expansions.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, for TI4, it was just like the one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Box.
So I think we have played a 3-player game that took 5 hours. So it's just wildly impressive that you played a 6-player game at 4 hours. And granted, that was when you were learning the game.
Yeah, I think it was my second playthrough, maybe.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Yeah. You really shouldn't play Twilight Imperium with 3 anyway. You should play with at least 4.
I agree.
No, I was going to say, how did that go? Did you like that at 3?
The first 2 people that go to war lose.
Yeah, it's just the person who manages to stay out of that first war over the middle is just like, all right, I'll come in and just clean up whoever loses this. I don't really care.
Oh, God. Yeah, I almost wouldn't play any kind of like a war in-game with 3, because we played Scythe with 3 once, and that ended in bloodshed.
Yeah, I know you're right. Like Scythe does that too. I still really like Scythe.
Yeah,
Scythe's one of my favorite games. So
it'll anger someone. Someone's gonna take over, and someone's gonna get pooped on. So
I need to get you some of the expansions for Scythe, because I want to keep playing that game, but I want to explore some of the new ones.
Get the Rise of Fenris.
I've heard great things.
Almost.
We got to get
Just play it through.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is excellent.
All right, well, that's my game. I don't know when it's coming out. I should know when it's coming out, but I forgot to look at that. It's definitely coming out in the future.
2020?
There are going to be some really good writers.
YouTube, help me out. When's this coming out?
Really good writers?
Yeah, you said you knew someone that wrote on it, right?
Oh, that's
I have
cool.
a friend. His name is Cal. He's amazing. Find him on Twitter. But he wrote one for like one of the scenarios or something. He's like an amazing writer, and they have just like a good team for this one. So I expect really, really great things. Yeah, to come from it.
Yeah, awesome.
I
wish I knew a writer on TI. That'd be awesome.
We're we're only 2 steps away now from writers on Twilight Imperium. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. We actually have an entire channel on our Discord dedicated to TI.
Just for TI,
because when the pandemic was happening, we had a lot of time on our hands, and so we would do games on Tabletop Simulator. And I love that because you could save it and come back, but then also you get back into the game and you're like, I have no idea what my strategy next turn was. Like, why did I choose these cards? Like, it was a little rough. So
funny.
Those are our games that we're excited about. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on at IV. Woo. And Monique, obviously, you probably don't know very much about what's happening at IV, but we'll tell you a little bit about. Yeah, well, I hope you do. I don't know. Some of you may have noticed that we have some boxes on the table, underneath the table. This is the box for our next game, Veiled Fate, and we got that this week. You may have seen it on social media this week. We're really, really pumped about how this came out because it has gold foil on it, and it's really hard to get gold foil on a prototype box, let me tell you. Can you shimmer it? We actually did an hour-long Q&A about this game. It's on our YouTube if you want to go and check it out. You also can join our Discord and ask us any questions there. You can even demo it on our Discord. We're doing demos on Tabletop Simulator. Usually play 2 or 3 games a week. So anyone can come do that. Monique, we're actually going to hopefully play a game with you next month. Would love to get you into a game and see what you think of this thing. I'm really excited to have you play it because you talked about deduction being one of your favorite mechanics. And it's not really social deduction in the fact that like you're trying to figure out who each other is and that's how you win the game. But there is deduction in the fact that you're trying to analyze how everyone is playing and figuring out where their allegiances lie, and that'll help you make decisions in the game. And so there is a little bit of that. We're calling it strategic deduction. So really excited to have you play the game and hear what you think about that. And then, yeah, we have some minis to show you guys. So we're painting the minis that you see on the table with a company called Blue Table Printing. Nope, Blue Table Painting. And these are two of the minis from the game. This is Agamar and Klar, and they just got finished being painted a couple days ago. And just really, really excited about how these are coming out. We'll have some more painted minis for you guys to see, maybe some of the girls for our next episode. But yeah, really, really pumped about that. And
how many minis do you guys have total?
Did you ask how many minis? Sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, nine minis in the game. Yeah, there are 9 demigods in the game that you will be secretly assigned one of them at the beginning of the game, and you are trying to essentially work, manipulate all of the the fates of the world in these 9 heroes to kind of guide your demigod towards the throne through going on quests and things like that. So
they look really, really nice.
Thank you.
Really good quality.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And then you want to talk about the project we just finished up for Logitech?
Yeah. So on the so as many of you may know, Ivy is also a commercial animation studio. So we just finished up a project for Logitech, Zoom, and Amazon all in one for a new product that kind of helps. Essentially, it's for businesses to kind of use Alexa and Zoom through a product that Logitech makes that helps you get into Zoom meetings, which is perfect for right now because all meetings are happening via Zoom meetings,
including this one.
Yeah, so we you can find the project on our animation Instagram, iv.animation. So yeah, we just put that out last week. It was a really fun project.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
And then finally, Sam, our producer and one of the owners of the company, who you can't see but is right behind the cameras over there running things for us, wants you to know that the Tour de France is happening, and he is a big biker, so he wants you to go watch it. I don't really know why that note's in here, but he put it in here.
It's in here. We have to read it, so go watch it.
He'll be on the show next week, and he can talk about it a little bit.
He'll just be watching
Tour de France while I'm on the show.
It's probably, is it still going to be going? It is?
It's
okay.
long.
Bike?
23 days. He does cycle. He was just in Montana cycling. It was like 1,000 miles. No, it's 100.
Wow.
It seems like 1,000.
It seems like 1,000.
So.
Yeah, I think that's everything that I have.
That's our show.
Monique, thank you so much for being on the show. It was really, really great.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah, it was
really a wonderful time.
Yeah, I had a blast talking to you. I love the live version of the show because I don't feel like there's as much stress for me of like, oh, I got to get this right. It's like, it happens, and we just get to talk to a fun person and get to know them. It's great. So keep making great videos. Our Discord loves you and loves your content, and we're excited to keep learning games from you.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to play Veiled Fate with you.
Yeah.
Which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah,
make that happen for sure.
Really looking forward to that.
To kind of close this out, where would be the best place for people to kind of follow you or kind of keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, so we're at Before You Play on pretty much everything except for Twitter. On Twitter, it's Before You Play _. So if you want to watch videos, it's youtube.com/Before You Play. We're also on Instagram, but if you just want to chat, then Twitter is the place to be.
Awesome.
All right.
Cool. Well, yeah.
Well,
thank you so much for having us. Wow.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Austin.
Thanks for having us. Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. Thanks for watching the show. Please join the Discord and come to hang out with us and talk to us. And otherwise, just comment on this and let us know what you think. And then you're supposed to say, smash that like and subscribe.
No, I'm not. I don't say that. No, I would never.
If you like this content, please subscribe. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye.